Hi all and welcome to Better Your Chess. My name is Valdemar and it is puzzle time. So I'm here on lichess.org and exactly 1 week ago on the 1st of April, I kid you not, I managed to get my high score of 74. Now with Puzzle Streak, it's not about speed but it's more about longevity and trying not to make mistakes. So I'm going to try and break my record. So when I get to 75, I will already have done that. Let's see if I can make that work. Wish me luck. Here we go. So your turn. Find the best move for black. What I like to do normally is just orientate myself slowly, quietly, calmly on the position. So find the best move for black. That means black's pawns are going this way. And then I just ask myself, so what is going on? Sometimes I try to figure out what the material balance is. Sometimes I try to figure out how the safety of the kings is, and so on and so on. What's interesting here, for instance, is I can take the queen and then he can take my queen. But then I can also take his rook, so that must be the correct solution. If it is not, I will have to start all the way from scratch again after puzzle number 2. Yay! So far, so good. And of course my knight on e8 was protected twice. He could take it twice, but I protected it also twice. Now what's also nice here is that if I take with my knight on e8, it will be check. Or I go knight f5 check. Yeah. So I'm down the exchange for a pawn, but okay, in danger of losing, of course, when you're down the exchange. So what I should be trying to do is just regain the exchange. Oh, that also sometimes surprises me, that they don't really test you on the most testing line, because this is just easy, right? I just take the rook. Okay, so can we mate here? The first move that comes to mind somehow is queen g7, but that's just total bollocks, I suppose. I think it's just about... Well, I mean, there's also this, yeah? The queen is unprotected, so if I could give some sort of discovered check with my rook, that would be nice. But I'm just looking at knight f6 check. He cannot really take that with the queen, because then I will take that with the rook. So, and then I suppose I'll just be able to take the rook on e8. So let's just go. Also, there's not really a threat against h7 because there is this bishop, huh? But I'm very curious. Yeah, I think it's just taking the rook here, to be honest. Also, when you're at the beginning of puzzle streak, the puzzles are still not so difficult. Here it should be a mate in 2. Of course, they will get more difficult the further down the line you get. There is a check here, and I'm picking up the knight, since knight g6 can be taken because the f7 pawn is pinned, so that should be the correct solution. Okay, and they're not even testing me if I actually saw that. I'm going to take the knight, of course. And then c4 is still nasty, but this was the end of the puzzle. So find the best move for black. What's going on here? Well, black's rook is attacked, huh? That's nasty. Let's get rid of the pain. So what can I do about that? What can I do about that? Also, material is not completely equal. White's king is also a little bit vulnerable. But this one is difficult for me somehow. Normally they just click, especially in the beginning. It's never really more difficult than a 2-mover, for instance. But I don't really know what's going on here. So rook d8 check. King e3 is bishop c5, but there's king e2. I can take on e4. So probably he will just have to go to the c file then. Yeah, and then it's rook c5 check, and he has to go to b4. And then he is in. Well, but then he's in the line of fire. I'm going to go with this move, check. Yeah, so he's not testing me on the king moving to the queen side. This is a way to get my rook on e5 out of dodge. This should be strong, of course. I don't really see anything else to check. Okay, that was the solution. Yeah, if I check on e3, I'm hitting the knight on g3 and I'm hitting the rook on f4. There does not appear to be a double defense. Huh? So when you check and you want to continue your calculation, you can always ask yourself, so can the queen be taken? No. Can something be interposed? Yes, rook f2, but then you do pick up the knight on g3. And can he walk away, the king? But if he does, then it's just queen takes f4. So that must be the correct solution. Check. And then we'll pick up the knight. Okay. So it's white's move here. Yeah, we can take that, and we need not be afraid of queen takes e4, because there's in the end queen takes g4 check, and we took over. Well, it's check. I need to do something, yeah. And then we go here. We take it from there. Yeah. What was the move? What did he take? Actually, he took my knight. Why would he take my knight and sacrifice that exchange? Well, I think you just take, and now they're going to test you on your endgame knowledge. So the question here is if you're in time with the a-pawn. Huh? So one thing to try is to count 1, 2, and then let's say if black's pawn promotes here or here, the h or the g pawn, then I don't want to be in a check, so I could go back to b4 or b5. So then let's say my third move would be this, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it would take me 8 moves to get a queen. Black, on the other hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we exchange, but that will cost us both a move, 6, 7, 8. So should I be playing for the draw then? Okay, so let's get rid of the paint. I mean, it doesn't make any sense for me to walk to the king side. I mean, let's just go with it. Now, wait a second. Why did he go so fast there? That's not satisfactory, for me at least. That's just not satisfactory. Okay, let's first checkmate him here. 1, 2. Oh, also that they don't show that after king f8 there's queen e7, king g8, queen e8, rook e8, rook e8, checkmate. I think they should allow me to finish the combination. Yeah, okay, well. This should be made in 2. 1, 2. The danger is always that you think you see it and then you go too fast. There's queen takes d8, which picks up a rook. And that's the best one since you do it with check. So then after that you also have time to pick up the one on e3. If you start with picking up the one on e3, then the one on d8 will run away. So this is the in-between check. Now he's attacking my queen, but again, of course, there's a simple in-between check. And then we take the one on e3 and we're up decisive amount of material. I'm looking at queen d4. That's just a hunch, right? But why? What's going on here? So black is up a lot of pawns, but he's down a rook. That's a problem. His king's a little bit more safe than white's, who's in the middle of the board, of course. Maybe it should be about holding the draw here. That's also important, that you decide on the ambition, huh? So what is it exactly? There are 4 white pawns and there are 7 black pawns. So yeah, they're also quite connected in the center, but still not so far down the board. So yeah, unless there's something going on, something very concrete, I think black should be playing here for the draw. So let's calculate queen d4. You know, if you're a stronger chess player, you would have started calculating queen d4 immediately and not talk so much. So if king e1, I can just play a perpetual with queen g1. And then basically the other move is queen c1. And then again I play queen g1. He cannot really put the rook in between because I can take that. I don't see any other move. You know, this is really the only forcing thing that black can and should try to do. There's also not something else here. Yeah, I think we should go with this. Okay, so that's just a draw then. No, it's not a draw. The idea is now, of course, you pick up the rook on a1 after king d2. Okay. Well, this should be quite simple, yeah. Is there a checkmate? Yeah, don't really see it. So let's just take the queen. White to move. Going strong so far. Going strong, huh? Okay. Queen c7 to f4. Oh, but apparently that was just a huge blunder, because that's mate. Oh, this is also quite nice. The g-pawn is pinned, and that's mate. Thank you very much. Yeah, so bishop b7 is rook d1, and then rook d1, king takes b7. So I think it should be instead rook f7. He cannot take me. If he interposes on d7, I exchange and then win the bishop on b7. If he runs away, it's just according to where he runs away, it's rook b7 or bishop b7. So this should be correct. Check. Yeah, now let's not make the mistake again of bishop b7. Well, that's not really a mistake. Yes, rook f7 is there, but of course I already calculated this. It always pays off. You just to pause a little bit, because with chess there's so many happy and unhappy discoveries around every move corner. Find the best move for black. So rook b7 to f7 was played. If my queen goes away from the protection of the g7 square, it will be mate. So maybe I can just drop my rook on d1 with a big bombshell. So queen e4 check. He cannot take me, he cannot interpose because queen f3. So he has to go to the back rank, and then rook d1 is just killing. So we start with this counterattack here. Yeah. So let's continue with this check, and then, as mentioned, this one. Okay. Okay, the queen is in a spot of trouble there. But there is a counterattack, yeah? Material is, let's say, well, not let's say, it is absolutely equal. Okay, black has the bishop pair, but, you know, for the puzzle purpose, that's just material balance. So I'm going to take the piece on e3. If he takes my queen, I can take his queen, and I'm up a piece. If on e3 he recaptures with the queen, then I've won a piece, and I can just go away with my queen to safety. So the solution here is f takes e3. Yeah, now I must recapture his queen, of course. Yeah, so now he's threatening to take my queen. If I take his queen, he can take that with the rook. And he has a lot of pawns. That's not clear at all. What is clear, however, is if I take on f3 with my queen, I would be up a rook and a knight, and there's no danger to my king because I'm confronting his queen. So this should be fine. Okay, he's just asking me to recapture that. That should be made in 2 moves on h2. So what you learn here is not to react to the opponent's capture, but just to play the counter-attack. They're so important, these counter-attacks. Yeah, rook h3? Traps the queen, right? And therefore is better than queen h3. Queen h3, no, let's not point out the obvious things. Let's just immediately, as an efficient chess player, try to calculate the best lines. Rook h3. The queen cannot go to f4 because of bishop f4. So after rook c4, it's rook takes h2. I just don't see anything here. It's rook h3, that should be just fine. Okay, and winning. Rook b6. I'm looking at d7. What's going on? Material is equal, but I have this very strong passed d pawn. Yeah, that's what seems to be going on. So d7. If he takes then the rook on c7, I promote the queen. And I would be winning. So then what he has to do is go back to b8 with the rook, where he just came from, basically. So then how did that help me? And also, yeah, no, he cannot take on d7, of course. That is protected 3 times. There is maybe rook d6, but I take that twice. That's also interesting. But d7 still. d7, rook b8. And then the try should be rook c8, hitting the queen. He takes on c8. I get a new queen. He takes that. And material is still equal. I have another check. He takes that. Rook d8 check. And how can he actually interpose? Well, there are so many ways. Rook e8 is just very safe. And I'm down a pawn. So, funnily enough, that is not the solution. So there's something I'm not spotting here. There is an idea, a tactic, a target, a theme. What is it? And if I don't get this one correct, then it's game over. Then it's just a streak of 22, because this is number 23. Ah, this is nasty. This is really nasty. So let's try and go a little bit schematic about it. Can I put the king into check in one move? No, it's not really a target. Can I hit the queen in one move? I can do it like this and like that. So I should be looking out for that. Let's also take a look at the rooks. I can hit the rook in one go with a piece of lesser value. This rook, same. Even though these moves don't make any sense, it's important to try and see them, because in a combination, and the word explains itself, it's when you're trying to combine tactical ideas, then these moves might become feasible. But, you know, it should be a simpler solution than that, somehow. Okay, let me get rid of the paint. The knight and the bishop. Can I attack those somehow? Also, the rook on b6 is unprotected, so there's also queen b3, for instance. I mean, queen e3. Well, I don't really see it. Rook c8, queen c8, d7, and queen d8 back. The only forceful move that makes sense really is d7. And then the threat is rook c8. And the only thing he can do about that really is rook b8. So we should take another look there. d7, rook b8, and then what can I do? Well, I mean, this is troubling. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. Am I going to give up this attempt now? Let's just start with this move. What? He's playing bishop f8. Sometimes you're just lucky during a streak, you know, because you just somehow see all the positions, sometimes up to number 74. But here I'm having a bit of a blackout. So, okay, let's go with rook c8. Yeah, okay, so the queen goes somewhere and I get a new queen. But why didn't they test me on rook b8? That's what's confusing to me. It's really confusing. Yeah, but I mean, I'm just up a piece, yeah. Okay, this is interesting. Something's going on here, right? Something's going on there, but I don't quite see it yet. Rook g6 check. e6 is also a very nice move, huh? If that queen moves, then I get to take on f7 with check, and he will be in the line of fire for my bishop. So after e6, I'm guessing that it has to be pawn takes e6, but then indeed there is rook g6, so that must be the solution. e6, is there some sort of counter? Yeah, there might be. But then I'm just crushing through on f7, so I don't really see that happening. Check. Well, okay, that's a queen. Yeah, so he's not testing me on the other line. What's going on here, guys? What's going on here? Material is equal apart from one pawn. I want to checkmate on h2. Well, then why don't you? I can play knight e2 check. He can play bishop takes e2, and then he's vacating the f1 square. Queen h2 check. King f1. Queen h1 is still mate. It is still mate, so it doesn't really matter. Huh. Okay, funny stuff, yeah? Not very lucid somehow tonight. Okay, okay. Yeah, so he's trusting to the pin. Yeah, but I can just remove the pinner and then I'll just win this piece. Thank you. Best move for black here. Ah, okay, yeah. a2, and in order to stop the pawn he has to go rook a7, but then I'll just play bishop a3. And he cannot stop the pawn from promoting. That's very nice. Okay, well, we're still in the mix. So, find the best move for black. What's going on? White just played this interesting trap g4. If you take that, he goes rook h6 check, and if you take that, it's queen h7 mate. So let's not do that. Instead, let's counterattack with rook a d8 and just pick up the bishop on d3, huh? I don't have to be afraid that my rook on f7 or on f8 is vulnerable, because that one is protected. That should be the move. And it's better than rook f d8, because rook f d8 is queen b7, and then if I take on d3, he takes on a8. Yeah, so as mentioned, f8 is protected, so we should use this rook. Yeah, he does take there indeed. Well, okay, thank you. I can just lure the rook away from the back rank and then win the one in the corner. Yep, thank you very much. So what's going on here? Queen b7 keeps the attack on the queen, and there's no counter checks. The queen has to move, and then I take on g7. How nice. Yeah, that should be absolutely fine. Okay, so he's giving up the queen. I always like it better when they test me on the other line, not the line where they immediately say, okay, okay, I've seen it, and just sacrifice back. Find the best move for black. Ooh, that guy is in a horrible pin, huh? Right. So what's going on here? Maybe I can castle still? No, 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 no. What's your problem? You can take the rook. You can take the rook. And yes, there is bishop d8, but no, I'm not going to play king f7 because queen h8, queen e1 is not mate. So I must go here. Okay. So he takes that piece. But in between, I can take on b7. That's nice. That's very nice. Yeah, that should be the solution. Okay, so we take here, and then we take this one with check, and then we take the bishop on f3. Okay, okay, okay. Careful now, careful. Ah. So there is tension here, right? Can I make even more tension? Okay, I'm having trouble figuring this one out. It doesn't click immediately. I'm looking at a4. But he can take on a4. And then I take on c4. And he will be in the square for my pawn. And his pawn will be on the a file. So that's not a way to play for the... Maybe that is a way to play for the win. That is a way to play for the win, because I have this passed pawn then. And I have this passed pawn. And his king will not be able to stop both. And I will be still in the square for this pawn. And this pawn can stop that pawn. That's not an easy puzzle. So we need to calculate this. So b3 is completely unprotected. So if I attack it, he must react. So first of all, there's d5 check. I take that. If he recaptures with check, I take that as well. Do I? Then it's equal number of pawns. He can take on f5. But then I take on b3. Oh, and then again you have to do so much calculation, huh? You have to do so much calculation. Well, it's the only idea. Because if I go back to f6, he'll just play d5, for instance. a4 is the only idea, you know. If you're in a puzzle, that's the tricky thing. You can probably just guess that that's the only move. And that it is probably winning, because otherwise it's not a puzzle. But in a realistic over-the-board game, a4 is maybe not winning, because it's not a puzzle position. But you're in something similar, and you think it's winning, but then it's maybe just not completely winning. But let's just try and figure this out. a4, if he takes that, you see how I'm just jumping from branch to branch like a monkey mind. I should be more disciplined. So a4, he takes that. We start all over. I take on c4. He goes a5. And I go king d6. If he takes f5, I'm running with my c pawn. Yeah. So there you have it. If after I take on c4 he goes e3, I'll go f4 check. If he takes that, it's c3 again. No, careful. a4 takes c4, e3. So it should be c3 then. No. I can't make it work. a4 he takes. I take on c4 and he goes e3. I'll just play king d6. And I'll try just to run to the a pawn. I cannot quite phantom it. I'm just going to play this move. It is correct. And I'll just play this. Oh, come on. They should just let us play this one out. I wasn't able to explain this completely. But I should, the idea is I should not move the c and the f pawns, because the moment I do, white will be able to capture one and just catch up the other. So I should just leave them in those positions and only move them once white's king starts to move closer to one of the two. And in the meantime, I can move my king around, walk my king around via d6, c7 and so on, towards white's doubled a pawn, eat them alive and then win. That's the concept, but they should ask me to show that technique. Because there's definitely more to it than just setting up the concept. Anyway, I'm still in the race here. 34, it's quite nice. There is an unprotected rook on c3, and there's an unprotected rook on h8. Yeah, but it should be it. Okay. Nice, nice. Checkmate. Luring all over the place. Checkmate. Okay, so it's the best move for white. Again, we are looking for a checkmate here. I think I've seen it. It starts with h5. The king has to take that. And then it's bishop f7. And then if he interposes with either g6 or bishop g6, it's g4 checkmate. Yeah, and don't make the mistake of g4, because he will go back to g6 and then bishop f7 check is no longer possible. So you should play this one first. Then he interposes. Okay, here he allows me to complete the idea. That's nice. So f8. Okay, so something's going to happen on the light squares, but how exactly? Ah, okay. Bishop h7 check. Well, I mean, if he goes king h8, it's knight f7 checkmate. So bishop h7, knight h7, then queen f7 check, king h8, knight g6 checkmate. So this is from a Kolla-Zukertort. Huh? You can see the very typical setup here. You know, the queen's pawn, the Kolla-Zukertort. Not to be mixed up with the Koltanovsky, where you have the famous London triangle, but not with the London bishop outside the pawn chain, but inside the pawn chain. Okay, but anyway, bishop h7 is the way to go. And then you check here, and then this is mate. Okay, how to go from here? Where to go from here? Rook b7 check, king b7, because otherwise king a8, queen a7 is checkmate. So rook b7, king b7, rook b1. And then king a8, I can take on d5, it's mate. And if he plays king a6, it's queen b5 mate. So that's completely forcing. Check. Check. And then not here, because then the knight will take, but here. And then it's checkmate. Okay. Rook f8. Okay, so what I notice is this guy is loose, and maybe there will be some sort of a discovered attack from the rook? I don't know. I can take on d8, that's a forcing move. I can also play this strange move, rook h6. Well, I don't know if it's strange. So where is the idea? Well, rook h6 threatens queen h7 and so on. So if he takes that, then there's a check on g6. That also protects our queen, because then it's protected by the pawn. It's nice. King h8, queen h6 check. King goes back to g8. And then rook c7. I'm somehow not so convinced by that, because there is a check on b2, for instance. Maybe in that position rook f7 will defend, because I don't have the check on g6, because it's queen takes g6. So I haven't found the idea, or I'm just not calculating correctly. Rook d8, rook d8. Is there something to that? Then rook c8. He takes on d3, I take on d8, I'm down a rook for the queen. Or I'm down a queen for the rook, I should say. Take your time, take it easy. It needs to click. Not easy, huh? Not easy. Still feels like it has to do something with black's king. But you can imagine, if you don't see this and you're playing a blitz game or a rapid game and you're low on the clock because this is already some sort of an end game, then you're just going to make a blunder. I'm not Magnus Carlsen, who sees these things in tops 2 seconds, I think. Well, he also doesn't see everything all the time. But I find this intriguing. This, I find this intriguing. Rook b8 to d8. I can take that. He must take, and then my king on g2 is also anything but safe. Okay, as long as I keep a rook on the second rank. But I'm just talking in general terms now. I should try and calculate very concretely. So again, rook h6, pawn h6, check. King h8, queen h6, king. King g6. Well, I mean, it's a draw. That much is clear. If I attack his queen, with my queen he'll take it. If I attack his queen while defending my queen with rook c3 or rook d2, he'll exchange queens and then take on d6. I have the idea that I'm missing something there in this rook h6 business. Or I should just play it positionally, like rook c6 and then d6 and d7 and hope to promote the pawn, but that's not puzzle-wise, is it? And then again, it should probably be so simple. Rook d8, rook d8, rook c8. I already checked that idea. He takes on d3. It's very scary to make the move now, because it might just ruin my streak. But come on. Tactics, tactics. You see, chess is tactics. It's all about concrete play, always. You can be such a good positional player. You can have such great understanding. You can know so much theory of openings and end games. If you cannot solve these concrete problems, it's all to no avail. Okay, so après nous le déluge. I realize I'm taking a risk here. Rook h6. Test me then! Test me then on g takes h6. Test me then, at least. Lichess. Now he's attacking my queen. Well, maybe he is still going to test me a little bit. I think I should continue like this. He's not testing me. Well, my streak is still alive, but I want to remember this one. There's some of these that you really want to try and figure out more. That I really find a pity. Queen a6 check, king b8, rook d8 check, mate. And then a simple mate in 2, right? a simple mate in 2. So queen h7 check. There are 2 moves. If he goes to g5, well, this is the move to start with, but you think you always got it covered, and then you get the scare of your life because it's the end of your streak. Queen h7, you need the discipline to see it through till the end. Queen h7, 2 moves available. King g5, Queen h4, King f5, Pawn g4, and the king runs away. So what's going on? Then Queen h7. Oh, Queen h7, King g5, f4 picks up. And then Queen h7, g4, King g4. What am I missing here? Of course it's the correct move to take on h7, King g4. I might take also on g6. But no, I need to find the blow, the death blow there. Queen takes, King g4, Queen h4. Well, I mean, in a practical game you would just play this. Why is he not going to g4? Because now this is just winning. The streak is still alive. Okay, this looks like a Zugzwang position where we take on c5. King takes c5, we go b3, he goes king d5, and my pawn is on f4. So then I can go king e3. And then if he goes to c5, I go to e4. If he goes to e6, I go to e4. And I'm sort of breaking through, huh? I'm getting to this pawn on b4. That's quite nice. So I'm going to take and then play this move. And then the idea was to go here. King e3. Yeah, okay, that's the solution. Ah, this is funny. This one is funny. Bishop h3. But there is bishop f1. Yeah, but I take that bishop with my bishop. And of course, bishop h3, king h3 is queen h1 mate. So that's funny stuff. And his counterattack along the 8th rank is too late, too little too late. Okay, so he's sacking the queen. I think they should just show me, allow me to make the mate. This is mate in 2. There. You see, that's what happens. It's not mate in 2. Oh. How can you just miss a simple interpositioning like knight g8? That's what happens. Your mind just stops working. Well, I think it was nice. A streak of 44. I think I learned something. maybe it makes sense to click through some of those positions where we weren't complete. Oh, that's a pity. How to do that, huh? How to do that? So they open up in a new window. And if I just click on back, no, I just get that. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm not going to tire you guys with that, trying to find all those 3 or 4 positions where I wanted to take a deeper dive into the problems. I think that's it for now. If you like this video, please SLC, subscribe, like and comment on YouTube, and we'll see each other in the next one. Bye.